Hi, everybody. This is John Fogg, and welcome to the greatest networkers in the world. All of these interviews are special, but this one is extra special because of the two people I'm going to have you meet and speak with, that I'm going to be speaking with today, and that you get a chance to do some question and answer with after we do our interview. The title of this interview is Love Like Crazy, Then Love More. And one of the things that I dearly love about direct selling and our business model is that you can do this business any way you want to. And that love like crazy, then love more, that's how these two people do this business. In the bio I wrote, I called them a power couple, and that is absolutely true. But it's the power of the heart as much as it is tremendous experience in this business. He's been in this business for 20 years, and she has been in this business for 13 years. They are at the very, very top of their company. They were the first people to achieve the ambassador status. In fact, they have to make new titles to contain these two because they keep growing. 700,000 people in their organization all around the world. Their backgrounds are eclectic, and I'm not going to get into them now because I'm going to ask each one of them to tell you a little bit about where they came from, give you a little bit of a roadmap of their lives up until they got involved in direct sales. There is much to admire for me about both of these people. This gentleman is a sponsor for me in a couple of different ways. One of which is, and I have no hesitation in telling you, I am in recovery, an alcoholic recovery, and he is my sponsor in that program. And he's my sponsor in a network marketing company as well. These people are beyond their company. They appear. He appears at Eric Worre's GoPro event. He's one of the featured speakers, and she has been at the Most Powerful Women in Network Marketing events. And they both go to the Association of Network Marketing Professionals events and speak there. Their generosity is just beyond. I don't think there is anyone in my entire life who has been more generous in every possible way than this man has been. And they are a team. They are a pair. And one of the things I dearly love about them is for 30 years, I've been stressing that this was a relationships-based business. It was a business based on getting to know who and how people are and see how you could help them. And these two people do their business that way. And they're on the cusp of earning a couple of $1 million a year, all based on a model of how can I help you and relationships. It's a joy for me to spend this time with them and to turn you on to two of the greatest networkers in the world, Tom and Denice Chenault. Hi, guys.
Hi, John.
It's great to be aboard, John. Very, very happy to see you. We love you.
Hi, John.
And your beautiful wife. And your 4 children.
Thank you. You forgot the dog and the cat, Thomas. Let's go back a little bit for each of you, please, and let me know how you each began in your lives. Where'd you come from? How'd you grow up? What was it like for you? Thomas, let's not do ladies first here. You start.
I came from a very, very interesting family because my brother, when he was born, he weighed 1 pound, 6 ounces. So that was 70 years ago. So he was very ill most of his life. And as a result, I was kind of the invisible kid. And so I was always striving for attention, and I was extremely different from my brothers and sisters all my life. And so I had to hustle. And I hustled from an early age. I had lots of jobs in restaurants. I was always thinking that there was something I could do to make a little extra money. And I've done that. I came through the restaurant business. Finally, I've been told I have a charisma. So a guy with a restaurant got hold of me, and I ended up running a very successful giant restaurant with 103 employees under the age of 18. So I really learned how to motivate people with for no money. You didn't pay them anything. They just had to work like crazy. And
Lord.
that was it was an amazing job because you learned to smile while you were dying. That was number one. And you learned to work when other people weren't working. So, there's 168 hours in a week, and it was common for me to work 100 hours just to get the job done. And as tough as that was, and I became an alcoholic in those days. It was a very, very stressful job and working all the time. And when we got off, we just went to the bar. As tough as that job was, I attribute that business to almost everything I am today because it taught me to relate to literally everybody and find the best in just every person I met. And so that was great. And then I got out of there. I finally drank myself out of the restaurant business. They didn't want me anymore. And my dad said, go sell something to rich people. And so I said, my name is Chenault, which is a famous aviation name. So the next thing I know, I was an airplane salesman, even though I couldn't fly. So I was a very good airplane salesman because it was kind of scared me flying those things. And I ended up doing pretty well at that. Not great, but it really taught me how to sell things to rich people. And I think that was a great life lesson too. But it was tough selling airplanes because there's not many buyers. And I went from there to become a stockbroker. And that was for an alcoholic that's a stockbroker that had a way about him that could get big money from rich people. That was a hand grenade with the pin pulled. And I was just nuts. And, of course, I drank myself out of that. I ended up getting 2 DUIs, which is driving under the influence, and 2 disturbing the peace in 1 month. And I was unemployable. As good as I was a salesman and all those things, people just knew that if they hired me, something bad was going to happen. So I opened up a newspaper, and I'm looking for jobs, and no one will hire me. I mean, I couldn't get a dishwasher job. And so I opened up a newspaper stand, and I pulled out the paper, and a piece of paper fell out, and it said, unlimited income opportunity. I go, I like that. No credit check. I go, that's awesome. No background check. And I said, this is for me. And about 6 hours later, I was in a network marketing company and off to the races. And the rest truly is history. I mean, I did it wrong for many years, which we'll talk about in a minute. But at the end of the day, that's how it all started. I like to, what we do is we usually we rewrite history to make ourselves the hero. And so I used to say, well, I analyzed multi-level marketing and chose it. No, it chose me because it was the last house on the block, John. I had nowhere else to go. And that was a blessing because I had to be successful. There was not a plan B. Plan B was my only plan A. I had to do it, and do it I did. So let's talk to the beauty.
Beauty, pleased.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, there's a delay. So
No, you got it. Go ahead.
So let's see. I grew up in the mountains of Colorado, Evergreen, and so I went to the University of Colorado in Boulder, graduated with a communication degree, and my first job out of school was with a leadership development company called Career Track. And I worked for Career Track for a couple of years. And then after that, I went into the personal growth industry, and I took a 2-year course through the Dreikers Relationship Centers and taught personal growth courses all over the U.S. and in Israel. And that was a huge experience for me because I was the youngest instructor in the program. and I was teaching all sorts of different levels of professionals, from doctors and attorneys and mothers, and so for me that was an amazing experience on how to relate to people. And from there, after my son was born, Dominic, then I stayed home for a couple of years, and after that, my foray back into the professional world was through the natural foods industry, and I worked. I was the fourth employee at Horizon Organic Dairy. I was the milk girl for a while, and was a personal assistant to the president, and that was a great experience. From there, I went into the personal care industry, and I worked for Paul Mitchell Systems, the shampoo company, and I was a salesperson. And I never thought that I was a very good salesperson, because I would tell people if they didn't need something, if they didn't need that brand new, shampoo system, I would tell them that they didn't need it. And but what that did was it developed trust. And so I had about 50 different clients, and I became very successful in that industry because of the relationships that I developed. And that was a huge learning curve for me, in developing relationships that later, with network marketing, I was able to parlay. But I was a single mom, and just barely making it on this 100% commission salary that I was on. And at one point, my car got repossessed. I was driving my grandmother's Volvo, which was, all the paint was all faded and ugly, but it was getting me around. And I had no cable that had been shut off months ago. And I ended up meeting this guy, Tom Chenault. And we were friends for many years. And at one point he called me up and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, you better talk fast because my phone's about ready to get shut off." And he goes, "Well, how much is the bill?" And I said, "I don't know, I think it's like $40. And he goes, "Well, how much do you have in your checking account?" And I said, "Well, very funny you should ask that." And I opened up my checking account, my checkbook, and I just balanced my account that day. And it literally said 00.01. And I had 1 penny.
That's like a ruble.
I had 1 penny in my checking account, but I was so happy because I wasn't overdrawn. I wasn't in the red. So he said, as a good friend, Tom said, "Well, goodness," he goes, "I'll pay your phone bill. You don't have to worry about that." And so that's kind of how Tom and I met. And I was introduced to this great profession called network marketing at that point, because I needed something to save me.
So, Tom, you were in network marketing when you met Denice?
Oh yeah, I was going great guns with the company, and I'd been in the business for a few years, and we were doing fine. I mean, we were cooking along, and she wasn't really gung ho about being married, dating, and being married to a multi-level marketer at the very beginning. But we developed a really good partnership and started really talking to people all over the place and did quite well together. So I went through
Denice,
lots of companies. I probably went through 8 or 9 different companies to finally find the one I've landed at.
Denice, you were evidently resistant. There were things you didn't like about direct selling. What were they, and how did you get past them?
I think that I always appreciated the model of network marketing. I could see that it could work for a lot of people. And I think that, in my mid-20s, I tried a company that I think that I was like a lot of people where I liked the model. I thought the product was decent and I could see that it worked, but I wasn't really shown how to be successful in the first, 6 months. And so what ended up happening is, which I think ends up happening for a lot of people, is that they go, you know what, I can see that this works, but it obviously doesn't work for me. And that's how I felt. I just felt like it won't work for me. Because I was enthusiastic, but I did not grow the skills. I wasn't shown the template how to be successful.
You didn't have problem.
And one of her benchmark statements is, in every presentation, she says, my job is to make sure I show you not only that network.
All right, I just lost the sound.
Still with us?
Yeah, I just lost your sound. You go back to your benchmark remark, Tom.
We can hear you.
Okay, and I just heard you. So let me reel this back, please. Denice.
So Denise's benchmark remark. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Denise's benchmark statement to people when she is in the front of a room or on a one-on-one is she looks them right in the eye and says, what I want to show you and prove to you is this industry and profession works, but most importantly, it works for you, because she doesn't want anybody ever feeling like they're leaving going, how come everybody else can do this, but I can't? So that's where she got real good.
So what turned the corner for you, or what was the tipping point, Denice, that had you move to understanding that?
I think the biggest aha moment was when we found 2 books, Raising a Giant and Feeding a Giant by Bob Crisp. And I read those 2 books, which were out of print. Tom had bought them on eBay and paid, I think, about $100 a piece for them. They were tattered and torn and barely, barely readable. And I thought he was crazy. But he kind of thumbed through the books and he said, you're going to want to read these. And I picked those 2 books up and I thought, oh my God, it was, the big light bulb moment when I thought there is a method to the madness. And those 2 books laid out network marketing to a T. And I really saw what was possible.
Did the 2 of you, once you got together as a couple, did the 2 of you begin network marketing together, or did you build a business, but you, Denice, you did your part, and Tom, you did your part?
Always together. Sometimes successfully and sometimes not.
What
happened was, Denice, when we first got going, I was pretty well known already. And so Denice wanted to be me. And as a result of wanting to be me, she was not an authentic her. And we finally figured out that Denice needed to shift that a little bit and find her true self and her gift. And we could figure out a way to make that complement each other. So she became her awesome her. I stayed pretty much the train wreck that I am. And as a result, we ended up making a great, powerful couple doing the same thing different ways.
Both of you come from experience, significant experience, more than most people, in working with people, talking to people. So you had some real comfort in doing that. So I would take it, I'm making the assumption, so correct me if I'm wrong, that your willingness and relax and being relaxed and comfortable talking to people was not an issue for you. Is that accurate?
Well, the funny thing is that both Tom and I are introverts. And so we are, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I am much more comfortable speaking one-on-one to people. And, but I'm also, you know, I like developing relationships. I like being curious about people's lives because different questions lead to amazing answers that pique my interest even more and more. And so that's a little bit of where the coffee shop interview was drawn from, is in developing relationships and just being curious about other human beings.
Would you two, together and individually, describe the coffee shop interview, this coffee shop conversation that you are famous for and have used for years to great success?
I'll lead off with that, John. It is the most powerful tool that anybody could use in any line of work, including and especially their marriage, because you live in a life where you are not agenda driven, you're agenda driven. You live your life for what's in it for them. So you interview them 100% to try to find out what they want in their life, and then you try to figure out how you can contribute to them and deliver that. So it's an interview process, a conversation, so to speak. And what you gain out of that is you find out where the yeses are, but you also find out where the no's are. And the key to the whole deal is not asking when you're ready to finally pitch your product or service to somebody. You're at a point where you are not going to be asking no questions. So everything's going to be a yes, because a couple of days earlier, they told you what they'd say yes to, and they told you what they'd say no to. It's very, very powerful. We teach people how to do it, and the ones that follow that track are immensely successful. And because it takes the frustration out, because they're not getting told no all the time, they don't mind making those cold calls that everybody's so afraid of. There's never a cold call in our business because we're just doing information gathering and trying to figure out what's in it for them. Our goal is to be interested, not interesting.
He's running away from you again. Denice, do you have more to say about that?
We just got to notice that the power on the computer's low.
Whoops.
Yeah, I think that when it's done correctly, and there is a little bit of an art form to it, that people don't realize that they're being interviewed. They just think that you're having a really great conversation. And if it's done correctly, they know very little about me, and they just feel like I am an incredibly good listener.
How do you initially...
It's great. It works like a charm. We interview everybody, John. Literally everybody. And we take incredible notes.
Initially, how are you connecting with these people? Where do you meet them? Where do you find them?
How do we initially what?
Connect with these people. I mean, you don't sit home on your couch next to each other and have these conversations.
Literally, if you have no agenda, literally, yeah. Whether it's by phone, by email, on Facebook, or in person, your job is to get related as fast as possible. The fastest way to get related is to find something that you have in common with that human being and comment on it. So we look for our common denominator, or if we don't see one, we look where we can serve that person better than anybody else could. That's the beauty of it. And what's so great about that, John, is, and everybody watching, this is absolutely the most beautiful part of the coffee shop interview. You don't have to look at every human being like a prospect anymore. You can look at every human being as someone that you can make a contribution to and love like crazy. That's the beauty of that.
My question is, how do you initiate conversations with people? Some of us are shy folks, and so the sense of the two of you I get is that you're kind of bulletproof. You'll walk up to anybody, any place, anytime, start a conversation. How do you do that?
You talk about their favorite subject, them. So have you noticed that you and I are both wearing the same turtleneck? Have you noticed that? We both are looking, I mean, you look great. Where did you get that turtleneck? That is cool. I wear them all the time.
So you can do that with a stranger.
Of course, I'm not trying to sell him anything. I'm interested in him.
Is there any advice, I guess, you have for those of us who are shy to the extent that approaching somebody out of the blue like that, even with a compliment, is really difficult to do?
I don't believe you.
Okay.
So when we talked many months ago, your daughter Rachel was 31 years old and she was living in Breckenridge. She was a Bikram yoga instructor. Johnny was 26 and he was a photography assistant in New York City. Your beautiful daughters, one of them played the harp and the piano. Your wife is a classical musician. You have always loved nutrition. You knew it inside and out all your life. But your mother, you loved her. Her name was Habercorn, which is the same name that my sister married. I have so many notes on you from when we spoke because I want you to know I am interested in you, John Milton Fogg, and you fell into that trap hook, line, and sinker.
All right, let me shift gears a little bit. Tom, you said you tried a number of companies, and from the sound of it, too many companies. What caused you to settle into this one, where you've been hugely successful, both of you?
I came out of the brokerage business, so I thought I wanted to be around fellow hedge fund, big money, merger and acquisition people. And I really didn't realize I needed to be around a management team that was multi-level marketing all the time. And when I finally found the owners of my company, I realized A, they were smarter and more experienced than me, B, they worked harder than me, and C, for them, it wasn't a business, it was a legacy business that they wanted to give to their grandkids. So I knew that if I went along for that ride, they were going to be around long after I quit. And it's been true. I've been there 20 years. We've been phenomenally successful, and they are just getting started.
As the two of you have grown into leadership positions in this company, were there some plateaus that you noticed that all of a sudden the game changed and then the game changed again?
Well, I think that one of the first plateau, well, I don't even know if I'd call it a plateau, but the focus of the company very early on was very customer driven, very product driven. And then Tom and I we started really learning the skills of building the business, and we became known as, of only talking about the business of our company. And now again that there's a little bit more shift to the customers, and I think that in a great company you have to have a balance of both. You can't just be talking about the business all the time, because you're only going to appeal to so many people. And so, keeping your options open and being able to have a company that has an amazing product line and an amazing comp plan in addition, that's the best of both worlds.
My question was more about leading, team building, and leadership. Did you experience, when you were first in the business, I imagine that it was about you building your business together, getting the people together and accomplishing that. And I'm guessing, because I haven't been where you have been, that game changed. You had to shift, and now your attention was a little different. And I'm wondering about those steps, because you're at the very, very, very top of this company. Everybody is looking to you. You're on stage teaching. So I'm wondering about those various levels of leadership. I mean, you weren't born leaders. You learned to become leaders. What was that? What were those learnings that happened to you?
You learn by doing it wrong. We shifted into a management mode for a while, and that completely didn't work. And then we shifted into a stage where we were doing it all and taking all the attention, and that didn't work. And as this organization has grown, we realize now our job is to get out of the way of those big leaders that are doing it better than we could, and let them get the attention, let them be the heroes, and us just go out and help where you've got, every boat's got some leaks in it, and go out there and fill those leaks. But one thing we are really good at doing is not messing with those people doing really, really well. And that's been very important. And the second thing that I think is critically important is being willing to do at least as much as you are asking your people to do. Until you walk in and say, I am retired, and I am going to define retirement as I don't work anymore. We just had a chat here a little while ago about I don't say no to people, because I believe that leadership deserves my attention if they're truly leading. And that's one of our biggest problems. Is I'm 65 years old right now. We went to Russia last year. We went all over the place. I mean, and at some point there's probably a slowdown point involved with that, but I don't want to. A, it's fun, but B, I feel like I've got a responsibility to those leaders, John, the leaders like you. Being on this show is about leadership. We're here. You called, said, be here, and we're here because we know we work for you.
Denice, let me ask you a question that it's a setup, admittedly. You have a passion for working with and reaching out to and helping women, especially the single moms and women who are looking to pull themselves out of circumstances very similar to what you faced when you met Tom and when you first got into this business. Can you talk about the unique challenges and opportunities for women in direct sales?
Yeah.
Well, I think that, women, of course, are inherently good at building relationships and building teams as well. And I think that, as far as the challenges, I think it's for everybody. the motivation, the daily method of operations that you create, the consistency, that is all very hard when it's a home-based business. But that's not unique to women. I think that's unique for everybody. That's for everybody. That's a challenge for everybody. On the other hand, that the opportunity to be able to do it from home is great for women, and especially if single moms or moms wanting to be home with their kids, raising their kids, even part-time. I think that being able to create an extra $1,000 a month for a lot of moms can be life-saving, because that can mean, a car payment. It can mean a lot of different things in this day and age. And I can easily show women how to do that. And so that's my passion, is being able to make a difference, even on a small level, so that they can help, financially provide for their family. They can be able to have time freedom, which is a huge thing for women when they're out in the workforce and having to, then come up with daycare situations and things like that. So it really is my passion, because I can see network marketing as an opportunity to fill a huge gap in women's lives.
And speak about Marina and Dmitry and how hard they worked in Moscow.
Oh my gosh. Well, when you travel around the world, you see that people are just like yourself. No matter where people live, we all want the same thing. We want to be able to provide for our families. We want to be able to have a roof over our heads, and we want some stability and security. And when we were in Russia, in Moscow and St. Petersburg, we saw that across the board. People are just like us. They want to be able to do the exact same things that we want to do here in the United States. We're all the same.
Let's talk a little bit about building your business internationally. What are the delights that you guys experience in building this business internationally, and what are the challenges that you see?
The challenges are cross-culture. So you've got a way of doing things in the United States that there is no way to do that in Russia, in Malaysia, in Australia. So where we first did it wrong, and we do a lot of things wrong, was we tried to make it our way there versus accepting the way they do things and complementing that. So we immersed ourselves into the way business was done in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. And we learned the way they wanted to do the business. And then we looked at how we could help them get better at doing that. That was the key, instead of jamming our philosophy down their throat. Now, the beauty of it is the people and the scenery and the history.
Well, and I think that, if you're going to open up international markets, you have to be committed to building the relationship over and over and over. So it's not just, pop in, say hello, you have to go back to that market over and over and over again, because in every city, you have to find that one leader that's going to spearhead it. And that takes some time. It takes time finding that leader, and then it takes time helping to train that leader. And it's a huge responsibility. And so it is amazing being able to travel internationally and do this business, but we take it very seriously, because it is a huge responsibility.
Can you speak, either or both of you, to the differences in how the business is done in the U.S., Malaysia, Australia, New Zealand, Russia? Are there some fundamental, unique ways that are unique ways for those various countries and those societies and cultures?
What I have found is that people have a tendency to want to build much faster in the international markets, and adjusting to that and letting them build much faster and having them understand that the residual income component of this is going to take time and going to be predicated about, the size of the group that you've got. So the key to that is let them have the ability to really get successful in a hurry and hit that financial benchmark early on in the game, but not to forget that they're building something for the long term. They're building something for their children and their grandchildren. And that's what we work real hard on, because like everywhere, you have these deals that people bring a lot of people into. Everybody goes crazy, and then it's out of business and everybody's mad, and it makes a black eye for this profession. And our goal is to show people this is a get rich slowly conversation, even though you can make a little bit of money on the front end.
And companies, I think, have to remember that all the pieces to the puzzle have to be lined out beforehand before you go into a market. And yeah. I think that's it's very seldom done. Our company, we learned over the last 12, 14 years of what needs to be in place to make everything smooth on the front end.
One of the things that I've encountered in all of the countries I've visited outside of the United States, and it seems, guys, to me to be a lesson we've learned here that the rest of the world hasn't gotten yet, and that is that in most countries I've been to, people want to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 different companies. They jump around almost frantically with as many things as they can get involved with. Whereas in the United States now, at least now, and I do know that in the past it hasn't always been this way, people are much more geared to understanding they got to be with one company and focus on one company. Have you experienced that internationally?
Yeah, and that goes back to the coffee shop interview and a powerful leadership conversation where you've got to definitively tell these people they're at their last stop. We are home for them. We're not just another house. We are home. And this is where you are going to build your career and hopefully where you're going to end your career. But it's a career, not a deal. It's something for the long haul, not for next month, and let's see what happens after that. And that becomes a culture changer, because when you've got these people signing up in 4 and 5 deals and they don't work out, it almost becomes acceptable that people lose their time and their money because the deal went off a cliff. And
they're hedging their bets.
Yeah, we don't want that. We want to show them that this is a permanent, long-term fix for their life, not a Band-Aid on a bad hemorrhage.
Got it. One of the things that I admire about both of you is your stage presence. You're both masterful on stage, and you've both admitted you're both introverts. So I know there was some kind of process. There was an evolution to that. Can you speak to how you got to be as comfortable and as powerful communicators from stage as you both are?
Yeah. You have to, everybody, I hate PowerPoint. PowerPoint is a crutch. So for me, fire your brain, hire your heart, and look in people's eyes and their souls and find out what they want to hear, and then say that to them instead of talking at them. And when I finally realized that if I just slowed down and I paid attention and looked in people's eyes, it was going to go a lot better than constantly moving from my eyes to some PowerPoint and trying to drown them in info. So we're very heavy on content and humor, but we don't let people realize that. We really, really work hard on focusing on the heart.
And I think Tom was, he was my best teacher because I am the daughter of teachers, and I like to have things outlined and, just so. And being his partner really taught me a lot, because he just flies by the seat of his pants. And at the beginning, I could not handle it. But I've grown to the point where, I can go with it. And that taught me what he exactly said, which was, a lot of times, I have an idea of what I'm talking about, but I don't have it scripted like I used to. And what that has taught me is to be a lot more present to who's in the audience and speaking to them, and being a lot more flexible. And that comes with, trust that you're able to at least, speak to into some people's listening, but also being a lot more flexible. And the radio show has helped, do that as well. And so it has definitely been a process for me.
So I am all about preparation. So what I'm going to show you is, these are my notes, John. See how much of a mess that is? This way. So just look at how much of a mess that is. But as I was getting ready to speak, I had the slides on the screen, but I was just making notes like it's going out of style about what I was seeing in people's eyes. And I said to myself, be true to you. I could tell that's what they wanted to hear. Read slowly. Give Tim Sales credit for that quote. Things like that I just wanted to make sure. And that was all off the hip, because you're coming from your heart.
One of the things that you two have committed yourselves to, individually and as a couple, is your own personal growth and development. I know that you think very highly of the need, the requirement for personal growth in direct sales. Can you talk about what personal growth experiences or resources have been the most important for each of you?
Well, I think for me, first off, in my early 20s, the Dreikers Relationship Centers, going through that instructor training, that started the whole process. Landmark education, these are formal, weekend courses, and then the Martha Beck coaching that I went through. And then of course there's the informal, which is bungee jumping in New Zealand, those things, anything where I push myself outside of my comfort zone, I feel like is personal growth.
For me, God's got the craziest sense of humor. Because the three things I did not want to do. I did not want to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. That was not going to happen. It turned out that's been the greatest personal development course I've ever done, and I do it every day after 28 years. Then this thing, I found out I was emotionally unavailable and I didn't know how to communicate, so I did this thing called the Landmark Forum, and that was just a complete train wreck of transformation that ended up making me pretty good at communication, and I got the girl. And then number 3 is this crazy business called multi-level marketing, is the personal development course of all time, because it gets you daily. You've got to get better. And it is such a really refreshing and invigorating thing. If you wake up every morning and you say to yourself, how am I going to make people's lives better? Who can I call to help with their transformation? So those 3 things, John, I think for me are the ticket. So all of them, I went into kicking and screaming. And all of them, I thank God on a daily basis.
One thing that you two share is a commitment to the profession. You have you're at the top of your company. People in the company, they're always looking to you. You're on the calls. You're on stage. Yep. But you've gone it. You both have taken it a number of steps further. Denice, you've talked at the woman's the most powerful woman in network marketing. You both speak at the Association of Network Marketing Professionals. Tom, you were just featured at Eric Warre's Go Pro event. There's something going on there for the two of you. Raising the game may not be a fair thing to say, but it's like that. Can you both speak to that? You're going out to contribute beyond your company. I get that that's tremendously important to both of you. What makes that important?
I feel like we have to pay it forward. You know, this profession has been so generous to us in so many different ways that we owe it to the profession. You know, and again, when I said yes last year to speak at the women's event in front of 4,000 or 5,000 women, that was stepping out of my comfort zone. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, I'm so honored. And then I went, I really don't want to do this. But I had to say yes, because I know that I owe it to this profession. I owe it to all these other women that are so much like me, and so that's how I feel.
We believe that there's much work to be done. There is suffering all over this planet going on. And we are hope in a hopeless society. I believe that. And I believe it with every fiber of my body. And I look at these people out there suffering. And I used to say, man, if I could just get in front of a room of people, it would be a lot. And then a meeting room full of people. Then, now this whole thing with 24,000 people, which is a lot of people. But you know what? It isn't a lot of people. It's only a lot of people because I thought it was. And now I realize that the sky is the limit because there are so many people out there that need what we've got. And she and I believe from our core that we can deliver it. So we don't feel like false prophets up there on that stage when we speak. We speak from a spot there that we believe with 100% sincerity that we can make a difference in other people's lives. And who'd stop? With that kind of legacy, that kind of vision, that kind of passion, that kind of mission, there's no stopping us. The only thing that's going to stop us is carrying us out in a box.
I think that's probably a perfect place to leave it. Unstoppable as you both are. Thank you for doing this with me. What's going to come next for people is for them to ask you questions and do that interactivity, which I think is so important. It's the coaching part. It's an opportunity. I mean, I have the privilege of being able to pick up the phone and call you and talk to you. And this is the people who are participating, our members here, get to do that next. So thank you both for being here. We are going to take a break, and we'll be back with questions and answers. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you, and I love you very much.